In all seriousness, Bayern's about to win a quadruple. A quadruple. Let me say that again. A quadruple. Okay? They're going to have the perfect season once again. Look, as of late April 2026, Bayern Munich is actively pursuing an incredible quadruple, already securing the Bundesliga title and 4 games to spare. With 4 games to spare, and the German Super Cup that they've already won. Now, all they need is the Champions League and the Pokal. The Pokal, they're in the finals already for that one. And for the Champions League, they're in the semis. They're in the semis. Bro, let's look up. For the Champions League, their first leg is Tuesday, April 28th, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. They're going up against PSG. If they beat PSG, let me tell you, they won. They won. Because if they, who else is in the Champions League? Arsenal and Atletico Madrid. Easy, bro. Arsenal could have, they want to be what Bayern is right now. Pursuing a quadruple. Okay? That's who they want to be. But Arsenal is bottling the league. They're bottling their quadruple. They might not even win anything this year. Staying second in. Wait, did they win anything? Did they win anything? Let's actually look that up because I doubt Arsenal won anything. Arsenal trophies this season. Arsenal has not secured any major trophies for the 2025-26 season. Performance reports suggest that after an intense competition, including potential Carabao Cup exit and failure to win the Champions League, the team fell short of winning major trophies. Bruh. Their cheeks. But even if they don't win a quadruple, right? They're going to beat Stuttgart and secure a triple. But why would you want that triple? In your head, you know you got this in the bag. Like it's all depending on you to beat PSG, and whoever in the finals is, you got that. You got it. This is your finals right here against PSG. This is going to be a giant versus another giant. Bayern, I would love for you to win a quadruple. Why? Because you have Harry Kane. I supported Tottenham, and we're in dark times right now. We're going to get relegated. And Harry Kane, you coming from Tottenham, and to see you win a quadruple, seeing you score the amount of goals you've been scoring, insane, bro. Insane. I'm voting for you. I'm rooting for you. Please win this quadruple. Bayern, Vincent Company, you've learned a lot from Pep Guardiola. And look at this. Guardiola warned us 7 years ago to this day.
Of 2024, 2 of the most powerful men in German football picked up the phone and called Pep Guardiola. Bayern Munich had just finished 3rd in the Bundesliga for the first time since 2011. Their manager was gone. Their identity was in crisis.
Ooh,
and their 4th choice candidate was a recently relegated championship manager from Lancashire. Guardiola didn't hesitate, didn't caveat, didn't say, well, it depends. He told Bayern to take Vincent Company blindly. Then he added something that should have made every football journalist on the planet stop what they were doing.
I said that sooner or later he will be manager for Man City. When? I don't know.
11 months later, Company won the Bundesliga, lost twice all season, scored 99 goals, and suddenly everyone wanted to know how a relegated manager became the best coach in Germany. But Guardiola already knew. He'd known for 7 years, and he'd been telling anyone who'd listen. Nobody was listening. When Pep Guardiola walked into Manchester City in the summer of 2016, he inherited a squad full of established stars. Sergio Aguero, David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Yaya Toure. Players who had already won Premier.
Let's not forget Vincent Company's big ass head right there. And Lescott.
Titles. Players who already knew how to win in England. But the player who caught his attention first wasn't the most talented, wasn't the most decorated. It was the most injured. Vincent Company had been City's captain since 2011. He'd led them to their first Premier League title in 44 years. scored that header against United that changed the course of a
With that
season
big-ass head that
and
he
built
got.
a reputation as one of the fiercest defenders the league had ever seen. But by the time Guardiola arrived, Company's body was betraying him. Muscle injuries, calf problems. He played just 62 games across Guardiola's
Megamind.
3 seasons, barely a full season's worth of football in 3 years. And yet, Guardiola would later say that Company was one of the most important figures he worked with in Manchester, not despite the injuries, because of what Company did when he wasn't playing. See, here's what Guardiola noticed. When Company was fit, he didn't just defend, he organized. He positioned teammates with hand gestures and shouted instructions while the ball was still 50 yards away. He ran defensive meetings, not because someone told him to, because he decided it was necessary. Nedum Onuoha, who played alongside Company for years, later explained it perfectly. He said Company started facilitating defensive meetings on his own, and that's when everyone recognized he was growing into something more than a captain. He wanted the responsibility. He craved the structure. But it was the intellectual side that really separated him.
Yeah, let's get a
While
replay
captaining
on that
one of the
one. Hold
richest
on,
football clubs,
I know he's explaining stuff, but look at this.
recognized he was growing into something more than a captain. He wanted the responsibility. He craved the structure. But it was the intellectual
Beautiful.
side that really separated
He
him.
added some
While
sugar to my
captaining
coffee
one of
right
the
there.
richest football clubs on earth, Company was simultaneously completing a global MBA at the University of Manchester. His dissertation? How Premier League clubs can benefit from home advantage. He was literally studying the science of the game while playing it at the highest level.
Whoa.
Guardiola saw all of this. The on-pitch coaching, the standard policing in training, the tactical obsession, the geometry of defensive lines. The way Company could speak to every clique in the dressing room because the man is fluent in English, French, Dutch, and German. And Pep filed it away. Because
Wow.
Guardiola doesn't give throwaway compliments. He's the man who once said he judges players on what they do when they don't have the ball. And what Company did when he didn't have the ball, when he wasn't even on the pitch, was manage. But the real proof? That would come after Company left, and it would not be pretty. In May 2019, Vincent Company did something that made everyone in football briefly lose their minds. With the Premier League title on the line, with Liverpool breathing down City's neck, he collected the ball 30 yards from goal against Leicester and decided, against all logic and probability, to shoot. It was the first goal he'd ever scored from outside the box in his entire City career, and it might have been the most important goal the club had ever scored. City won the league by a single point. Days later, he was gone, back to Anderlecht, the club that raised him, as player-manager. And the farewell letter he wrote told you everything about what was coming next. He wrote that Guardiola reignited his love for the game, that he had witnessed, participated, analysed, absorbed, studied, and that City played the football he wanted to teach. Not play, teach. The word choice was surgical, and then reality kicked him in the teeth. Anderlecht were a mess. Belgium's most successful club had been destroyed by financial mismanagement, fan protests, ownership chaos. They'd lost their way so badly that when Company walked in, he was walking into head-on traffic. The player-manager experiment was a disaster. Anderlecht had their worst start to a league season in memory. Company had to step back from touchline duties because you can't organise a defensive line and manage substitutions at the same time. Turns out, being both the surgeon and the patient doesn't work. He retired from playing in August 2020 and took the job full-time. 4th place in his first full season, 3rd place in his second. Not bad for a club in
Not
crisis.
bad.
Not remotely good enough for a club that had won 9 titles in the 21st century. There were
9
cup
titles.
final heartbreaks. Conference League exits to Dutch teams most people had never heard of. Reports of friction with the board. Company wanted to build something. The hierarchy wanted results yesterday. But here's what the headlines missed. Something was happening underneath the surface that only someone who understood coaching philosophy would recognize. Company was teaching. He was playing out from the back with players who'd never been asked to do it before. He was implementing positional play at a club that could barely afford its wage bill. He was putting Manchester in the heart of Belgium, exactly as he'd promised. And in June 2022, after 2 seasons of fighting uphill, he walked away. Not because he failed, because the gap between his vision and the resources available had become unbridgeable. The football world looked at Anderlecht and saw mediocrity. Guardiola looked at Anderlecht and saw curriculum vitae.
They both
Burnley
need to work
had just
together,
been
bro.
relegated. Sean Dyche, the man who'd defined the club for a decade, was gone. And the identity he'd built, direct football, aerial dominance, making life miserable for technically superior opponents, had gone down with the ship. When Vincent Company walked in, the appointment made 0 sense to anyone who only saw the surface. A
Me too.
Belgian
I saw that
centre-back
too, yeah.
with
I was
2
like, what is he
mid-table
doing?
finishes in the Belgian league. Managing a club that had been relegated, playing the exact opposite of what he wanted to implement in the Championship, where possession football goes to die. What happened next was one of the most complete tactical transformations English football has ever seen. Under Dyche, Burnley had the lowest average possession in the Premier League, dead last. Under Company, they became the Championship's most dominant possession team, not gradually, immediately. He brought in Josh Cullen from Anderlecht because he trusted players who already spoke his language. He convinced Taylor Harwood-Bellis to come on loan from City because he knew the kid could play out from the back. He found Manuel Benson and Anas Zaroury from Belgium, unknown quantities who fit his system perfectly. Burnley won the Championship with 101 points, first club to break 100 since Leicester in 2014. They clinched the title.
Is that gonna be Tottenham, bro? Is that gonna be Tottenham next season? We're getting relegated, bro.
Wood Park in their local rival's backyard. Company won Manager of the Month 4 times in a single season. And this is when Guardiola made his move. Not physically, verbally. Before City's FA Cup quarter-final against Burnley, Guardiola sat in front of the press and said it plainly. He said Company's destiny to manage City was written in the stars. That he didn't know when, but he was more than convinced it would happen. When pressed on whether this was just loyalty talking, Guardiola got specific. He said what he'd seen Burnley do on the pitch showed real work and real knowledge behind it. He said the prediction wasn't because Company was an important figure as a player, it was because of his quality as a coach. But then the Premier League happened, and the universe, as it tends to do with Company, decided the lesson needed to be more painful before it could be more beautiful. Burnley's first season back was brutal. They finished 19th, relegated with just 24 points. Some called it one of the worst relegations in Premier League history. Critics pointed to naive transfers, tactical stubbornness, an inexperienced squad being asked to play a style they couldn't sustain against top-flight opposition. The vultures circled. Another failed Guardiola disciple, they said.
I think
Great
it was
ideas,
money at that point.
no pragmatism, the kind of manager who'd rather lose beautifully than win ugly. And yet, Chelsea came calling during the Championship season. Tottenham put him on their shortlist. Manchester City earmarked
We should have
him
bought
for
him,
the
bro.
future. The people with access to the full picture, not just the Premier League table, kept seeing what Guardiola saw. Because here's what the relegation narrative misses. Company's Burnley were never going to survive their first season back with the squad they had. The club bought young, unproven players because that was the budget reality. What
Money.
Company built was a system, and systems survive relegation. Panic buys don't. When Bayern Munich appointed Vincent Company in May 2024,
I was surprised.
the reaction was somewhere between confusion and laughter. This was a club that had just finished third in the Bundesliga for the first time since 2011, a club coming off their first trophyless season in over a decade, a club that had sacked Julian Nagelsmann and watched Thomas Tuchel's tenure implode. And their answer to this crisis was the guy who just got relegated from the Premier League. Max Eberl, Bayern's sporting director, later admitted Company was the 3rd or 4th name on their list when the search began. But Eberl did something smart. He called Pep Guardiola. And Guardiola's response, according to Bayern's honorary president Uli Hoeneß, was instant and absolute. Take him blindly. He's a fantastic coach. He'll even take over Man City someday, when I'm no longer there. Let that context settle. Guardiola wasn't just recommending a friend, he was telling one of the biggest clubs in world football to bet their entire season on a recently relegated manager. That's not sentiment, that's conviction backed by years of private observation. Bayern's debut season under Company was absurd. They won their opening 4 Bundesliga matches, scoring 16 goals. They beat Dinamo Zagreb 9-2 inches, the Champions League, the highest scoring match in the competition's history. Harry Kane retained his Bundesliga top scorer crown with 26 goals. Jamal Musiala played the best football of his career.
I'm waiting for him to come back.
Bayern went top of the table on match day 3 and never came down. They lost just twice in 34 league matches, the club's best defensive record in 8 years. They won the Bundesliga with 2 games to spare, finishing with 82 points. The best debut season for a Bayern manager since Guardiola himself. And the way he did it is what matters. The 2-4-4 formation, in possession, the inverted fullbacks, the relentless pressing, the clarity of structure that Philipp Lahm praised publicly. The individual man management that had Dayot Upamecano, a defender who'd been inconsistent for 3 years, playing the best football of his life. Leroy Sane, who played with Company at City and under him at Bayern, called him a true leader, said his directness and vision were contagious, said he'd have a magnificent coaching career, no hedging, no caveats. In October 2025, Bayern gave Company a contract extension through 2029. The relegated Burnley boss, the Anderlecht project that never quite worked, the guy everyone underestimated at every single stop, was now locked in at one of the 3 biggest clubs on the planet.
It's about to be the biggest right now.
So
if they
let's
win the
go back to the
quadruple.
question this whole video is built on. How did Guardiola know? He knew because he wasn't watching what everyone else was watching. The punditry class saw a player. Guardiola saw a process. When Company ran those defensive meetings at City, Guardiola didn't see a captain doing captain things. He saw a coach without a clipboard. When Company completed his MBA while training every day with the best squad in England, Guardiola didn't see a hobby. He saw someone building an intellectual framework for a second career. When Company struggled at Anderlecht, Guardiola didn't see failure. He saw someone willing to learn in public, at a club he loved, with no safety net. And when Company got relegated with Burnley, Guardiola's response was telling. He said he had a huge opinion of Company, that it didn't matter if he got relegated. That's the line that explains everything. Because Guardiola evaluates process, not outcomes. He knows that relegation with an undercooked squad doesn't erase 101 championship points.
Yeah.
He knows that 3rd place in Belgium with no budget doesn't erase the tactical principles being installed underneath the results. He knows that losing is part of the curriculum. Company now manages a squad that includes Kane, Musiala, Kimmich, and Sane. He communicates with them in 4 languages. 4. He arrived at the training ground at 7:30 in the morning and left at 6 evening. The same habits he built at Anderlecht. The same intensity he brought to Turf Moor. And somewhere in the background, Manchester City is watching. Reports consistently name him as their primary target whenever Guardiola eventually leaves. The romantic option, some call it. But there's nothing romantic about it. It's the logical option. It always was. Guardiola told us so years ago. We just weren't listening. He stands outside the Etihad already, in bronze, hands behind his ears, celebrating that Leicester goal. One day, he might walk past that statue on his way to the dugout. And when he does, remember this. Pep Guardiola didn't predict it. He diagnosed it.
Crazy. He's going to win it all.
He's going to win it all. Messi